Good morning, everybody. What's going on? What's shaking? What's happening? It is, where are we here? There we go. Just want to make sure I have all the levels correct. Hey, it's Friday, June the 19th, 2020. It's 11:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dave Mcrae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto. This is episode 69 of Mcrae Live. And it's an all Q&A Friday. Whatever you guys want to ask me, I will do my best to give you my thoughts. Depending on what the question is, it may be just an opinion. It may be coming from a place of an informed opinion. Either way, I will do my best to answer the questions for you. I thought it would be a nice sort of way to kick off the weekend and do this. Now, before we get rolling on that, let me just apologize to those of you out there for yesterday's debacle. I was supposed to have Sandy Johnson and her agent on yesterday late afternoon, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Episode 69 was supposed to be yesterday, and we linked up and everything was ready to go, but for some strange reason, she was having connection issues with one of the software with Wirecast, which is the software that I use to do my shows. And we couldn't get her into Wirecast. It was finicky. I know she lives in a rural area. She has said to me a number of times that she crosses her fingers and hopes that, Skype and Zoom work. So, and it appeared to be, but we were having trouble getting her into Wirecast. So then I moved over to OBS, which I never use. I only use on the rare occasion. It's sort of like a backup. A lot of people do use OBS because it's free. And it stands for Open Broadcast Software. You can download it right now, throw it on your computer, have a live show. It's free. There's a bit of a learning curve. You got to learn how to use it, but it's free. I don't use OBS for the shows that I do because I need a little more creative control and a little more sort of just a little more options, I guess you could say, when doing the shows that I do, and then doing the show with Tony and doing it as often as I do. But I do have OBS installed on my computer as a backup, like in case something were to go down. So that's what we did. We moved over to OBS, and I was able to bring her in that way, and we were able to see each other. But for whatever reason, her audio, I could hear her, she could hear me, but the audio wouldn't have been going out to you guys. You would have been able to hear me, but not her. And then her agent came on, Rick, who's a really nice guy, and we just couldn't get it sorted out. There was some weird problem going on with the connection. I think I have figured it out. So Sandy, if you're watching, Rick, if you're watching, I will send you guys a message later, but I believe I have figured it out. Sometimes, with technology, there's just a conflict of drivers and certain things. I had everything checked, everything clicked. It's not a computer issue. I have a very, very fast computer. I have 32 gigs of RAM and a 8700K processor, i7, and it can render 4K on this shit. So the computer's not the issue. It's just usually always there's some sort of conflict with a driver or something. You got to restart the computer, which I did, but then that didn't work. And that, it happens. Shit happens. But I think I have figured it out. So hopefully come Monday. So we've rescheduled for Monday. I do not usually do Mcrae Live on Mondays, but in this special instance, I am happy to make an exception. Two Dudes and Some Bullshit will still be happening Monday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So I'll be doing two shows that day. You'll get Mcrae Live at 2 p.m. Eastern. So I'll have Sandy and Rick on, and we'll be talking Halloween. And Rick wants to come on, of course, and talk about how he was able to find Sandy again and that story, which is yet to be told. So at least as far as I know. So that's going to be interesting. And that'll be 2 p.m. Monday, Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel. I'll put up the thumbnail, Sunday or something like that. So my apologies. It was out of my control. I spent that whole hour. There's nothing worse. Anybody who does live shows knows that when there's a technical problem, sometimes you need to step away from the pressure of, you let it go for a bit, right? People don't mind waiting a bit, right? Especially when you have a special guest on, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we were closing in on an hour, right? It was about 5:50, and I said to them, look, why don't we call this and reconvene again at a later date? Now, thankfully, both of them were willing to do it. They had some time to do it relatively soon, which is great, and of course we appreciate that. But sometimes, when you're trying to, figure out what's going on, but that people are waiting on you, right? And sometimes it's better to just kind of say, okay, you know what, guys, this really sucks, but let's call it a day so I can go and, figure this out without the pressure of knowing people are going, where the fuck is he? You know what I mean, right? And sometimes, and anybody who does this knows that sometimes that's what you need to do. And then actually you're able to figure it out faster when you don't have that pressure, because I got the guests that are waiting. I got you guys that are waiting, right? You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just easier to kind of, especially when you're, you're closing in on an hour. So again, my apologies for that. I do appreciate your patience, and Sandy, and Rick appreciate it as well. And of course, we will try to tackle this thing on Monday, and we should be good. Because I think I figured I did a couple of tests on my own, and it worked. So I will be doing tests on Monday morning before I connect with them. So yes, 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday afternoon, Sandy Johnson will be on the show. But today it is an all Q&A going into the weekend. Whatever you guys want to talk about, let's do it. Let's do it, shall we? So I don't think any super chats came in. No. Okay, good. Just always like to make sure I didn't miss any. Unintentionally, of course. So let's see what's going on. It's we got 99 people already tuning in. Great to see you guys here. We got Crystal Lake Counselor 1977 says, Dave, the Scream saga is based on Sydney being hunted by a family member. Did Kevin Williamson make a mistake with this plot line? How can the franchise sustain with a non-family member killer? Well, I mean, that was... Yes, I mean, that was, I'm not a Scream head. You might be more of a Scream expert than I am. And of course, it is always important to note that in the world of Hollywood, when somebody says that was the plan the whole time, there's probably about a 50% chance that that is true. And to what degree? Again, when somebody says, well, this was the plan the whole time, really the question is, to what degree was that the plan the whole time? Because, it's like when somebody says, there's been discussions, right? You hear that a lot in Hollywood. Well, there's been discussions about it. That could mean anything from having a casual conversation at your buddy's barbecue, right? About, hey, we should do that fucking thing sometime. Oh, we totally should. Yeah, think about it, man. So like we'll have this, and then like she opens the door, right? And then when she comes, dude, we could totally do that. We should totally call Bob down at Warner Brothers and see if I don't know if you do. We've had discussions about it. to actual formal meetings. Like, I mean, it's such a spectrum, there's that not game, but that thing, that I call the political cinematic rhetoric. It's just what you say to appease people. It's like when Jason Blum said the trailer's coming soon, and I told all you guys it ain't coming soon. And everybody's like, no, it's coming next week. And I'm like, no, it's not. And it didn't. And it's still not. And, we'll get to what he said yesterday here in a second. It's just what you say to shut you up. It's what you say. And they mean that in the nicest way possible. I don't mean that they are angry, or they're angry that you're inquiring about it. Again, I'm being satirical to make a point, right? It's just what you say. You're not going to say, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just, you say, it's coming soon, man. It's coming soon. And well, I guess it would be. But soon is, soon could, it all depends on what your idea of soon is, right? Anyway, so in regards to what you said there, with Kevin Williamson, was that the plan? I mean, clearly Scream, you can watch from beginning to end, the first movie, and it's a complete story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's no, that's it. And it wasn't anybody, related to her or whatever. So, you could watch it. It ends. It totally ends. There's no eyes opening, somebody coming out of the closet, or that last little. Whoa! I see. No, it ends. It's over. It's done. Now, did Kevin Now, I don't know if he said. Again, I'm not saying he has said this, but I guess I'm jumping to the conclusion here that maybe in some interview, Kevin Williamson said something like, oh yeah, that was the plan. We had this plan to do this 3-part thing. And, and usually that means, hey, if this is successful, this is where we could go. But it's not the plan. It's just an idea. It's there. It's a what if scenario. But can they continue it without family members? Yeah, of course. Because the first movie, if you watch the first movie in a vacuum, at least unless I'm missing something, Billy Loomis wasn't related to her. They were dating, but they weren't related. And of course, Matthew Lillard's character was just a friend. So I absolutely think you can continue this thing without family members. Absolutely. If you think Hollywood can't continue this thing deviating from what we know, they do it all the time. They do it all the time, and people eat it up and accept it and love it and, and soak it in. That's what, what they do. So I don't know what Kevin Williamson's thoughts are on that. I'm not, I know who he is, obviously, but I don't know what he said about the broader picture of Scream. But I just, if he's ever said something like, oh yeah, the whole plan the whole time was to end with it being the brother she never knew. It's like, well, then that's a dog shit idea, Kevin, and you should have just stopped it right there. Usually when movies have dog shit ideas, and somebody claims it was the plan the whole time, somebody needs to say, well, that's a shitty idea. Maybe we shouldn't do that. I wouldn't be like, that was my idea the whole time. I'd be like, yeah, it was a bad idea. I don't know what I was doing. I just was in there. Anyway, just always take those things with grains of salt. Always take those things with grains of salt when they say that. But anyway, could they? Of course they could. Of course they could. They could do anything they want. Let's see. A couple super chats came in. David versus Goliath. Thank you very much, buddy. Says, thoughts on the Jason Blum interview yesterday? Well, I didn't see the Jason Blum interview yesterday because I was busy in post-production with the Black Christmas. I wish. Hey, hire me to do Black Christmas, bitches. With the It's Me, Billy, Indiegogo teaser trailer. And Bruce and I are deep into post-production on that. And of course, not very, it's a teaser. And again, this is a Indiegogo teaser. I always use the words Indiegogo teaser when talking about this little teaser because I don't want people to get the impression that this is the teaser trailer. The movie hasn't even, been shot. We need to raise the money to shoot the movie. When the movie, and I'm saying when, because I got to be confident here, when the movie is completed, then you will get like an official teaser trailer with footage from the movie. This is an Indiegogo, and there is footage in it. We have shot things, obviously, but this is the teaser, the perfect example of a teaser trailer, and it's for the Indiegogo campaign, which is it's almost done, and we're looking to launch very soon. So I was deep into that yesterday. So I didn't watch the interview, but I am aware of what he said in regards to the Halloween Kills trailer, which at the end of the day is really probably the only fucking thing anybody cares about when talking about the Jason Blum interview. You know, so what else are you working on? Shut up. Where's the Kills trailer? Where's the Kills trailer? I don't care, Blum. Just tell me, where is it? Where is it? Well, you know, just tell me where it is, you son of a bitch. So Jason Blum, I'm paraphrasing this. I just read this quote this morning. He basically said something to the effect of that they don't know when it's coming, but they know that the trailer will not be released until they know for sure whether or not Halloween Kills will be released in theaters in October. I think I have that right. The chat room can correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I have paraphrased his quote. That's not verbatim, but that is the gist of what he said, that they need to know sort of what's going to happen because they don't even know if the movie is going to be released in October yet. And they need to know first whether, you know, that is a done deal before that trailer releases. So the trailer is not releasing, you know, it's not going to be released this month. And I said that to you last month. I said, it ain't going to happen. I've been saying to you guys, and again, it's just when you understand how the business side of Hollywood works, and I think it's really important. One of the things that I learned in film school and one of the classes that I took, now granted, this is over 12 years ago. So obviously things have changed, but the principle of a lot of things have remained the same. And one of my favorite classes actually was learning about the business of Hollywood and about sort of, you know, the rhetoric and certain things that are said and how it all works. And I found it incredibly fascinating. And over the years, I've tried to keep up on it through, you know, reading about things and you know, talking to people who I know in the industry and you know, yeah, just producers that I know and people I know who know, and just keeping my ear to the floor as best as I can. Now, I'm a professional voice actor. That is my area of expertise in the world of the entertainment industry. So I am not, you know, neck deep into the day-to-day of the movie side of things, but over the course of my career, I've talked with a lot of people who are. I know a lot of people who do. I've been invited down to sets here in Toronto by friends who work at that level. My buddy Bruce, of course, he has his ear to that far better than I do because of the job that he has. So and it's not to say that, again, I don't say this in a braggadocious way. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because I think and it doesn't mean I'm right all the time. It doesn't at all. I can be wrong just as much as anybody else can. But when I see certain people saying certain things, I have this instinctual, this automatic thought and reaction to what that probably means and where that means and why it means this. And I try to share that with you guys as best as I can. That doesn't mean that I'm always right. It doesn't. Again, I don't say that in that way. So I don't want my words to be misinterpreted. I say it as when you understand the pulse of the industry and you can make those informed guesses that give you a better probability than rather than saying, you know, Jason Blum said soon, it's tomorrow, you know, and people are saying that. It's like, it's not why he said, you know, and I understand, look, not everybody has their ear to the ground that way. That's why you count on people like me and other channels that do to sort of give you some insight to it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, I'm not right all the time. There's been a lot of things I've thought were going to happen that didn't happen, that I've said, I think that's going to happen, it didn't happen. But it's about giving you the best probability, things to think about, right? To sort of temper the expectations and think about it. So, you know, when the theaters were shut, I knew there wasn't going to be a trailer or a poster because the theaters are closed. And I had people who do work at studios talk to me, a couple of sources, and say, it ain't happening. Now, nobody from Universal, okay, but somebody who also works at a Hollywood studio. I was going to say the name, but I decided not to. A Hollywood studio. And, you know, it's who gave me who reached out to me and gave me an idea of the pulse of sort of the climate of what everybody's thinking. And he's like, yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. He said, I'll be shocked if they do that. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I mean, the theaters aren't even open yet. So what has to happen is that the theaters have to open and the studios then have to see there are guinea pig movies that are being released. Tenet is one of them, right? Unhinged is another. And when I say guinea pig, there's no guarantee that these movies are going to make bank. You would think they will. They want to release their films with 80% of the movie theaters open, right? But what's the capacity going to be? Like, I mean, it might only be 25% seating capacity. I mean, Tenet may at the end of the day still make a lot of money and make back its investment 100%. But at the end of the day, it still may not make as much as it could. So there are movies that people are going to be watching very closely to see. And of course, the climate. I mean, in California right now, they've had a spike and the governor has just made it mandatory for people in California, which is the, central world of Hollywood, right in LA. I believe it's mandatory to wear masks now in situations where you can't. I believe, or that you are not going to be able to physical distance. I believe it became mandatory. People living in California can let me know for sure, but I believe it became mandatory. And so, I mean, despite what you might think about this personally, maybe you're rolling your eyes going, God, this is just such bullshit. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, oh, this is intense. I don't care what side, whatever it is, clearly, however you feel, we're not out of this yet. We're not out of this yet. So it might feel like we are because the weather's nicer, the summer's here, people are out, you kind of get that vibe that there's a bit of normalcy kind of happening, but there are still things going on that might delay a lot of things. I mean, things are beginning to open, a little bit. Productions are starting to begin, but who knows where we're going to be 2 months from now. Maybe when we move into September and October and the cooler weather returns, the spike goes up again. So who knows? So when Jason Blum said what he said yesterday, and I read about it this morning, I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I've thought the whole time. And again, I don't say that as oh, look at me. I say that because that's what I expected when you look at the landscape of everything that's going on and you sort of know how the business side of things work. And I'm not a studio executive. I don't know everything, but I try to apply what I remember from school. I try to apply from what I remember from the things that I've read, people I've talked to, people who've reached out to me, right? And my experience, and I kind of pile it together to get a picture. And then I say, well, this is what I think is probably going to happen. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong. But I want to give you guys things to think about, so you're not, like people thought the trailer was going to release on like at the Super Bowl. And I'm thinking it costs $5 million. Like, think about this. It costs $5 million for a 30-second ad. That's probably half the production budget of the movie. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And of course it didn't. Of course they didn't, I mean. Anyway, so doesn't surprise me. We're not going to get a trailer in June. I speculated that it's possible, but then again, Tenet's now not opening up till the end of July. I thought because Comic-Con has been canceled, and I stand to be corrected on this, but I believe they are. I think they are moving to an online thing. I think, and people in the chat room who know about this way better than me, and maybe have their pulse to the ground better than me, can let me know. I don't know if that is the plan, but I think that Comic-Con wants to do an online virtual free Comic-Con this year, says Jordan Ellis. Thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate that. So that's what I think now what that all entails, who knows? I speculated a couple of weeks ago that maybe you might see a little something with Halloween Kills on the virtual Comic-Con. Now, whether that's the trailer or the poster or another featurette just to, keep everybody happy, I don't know. But I think if if Universal is going to be a part of it, I would imagine they would have something, but not necessarily something that solidifies October 2016, October 16th, I think it is, right? 2020. Like, I don't think it'll be that. Maybe it'll be the poster. Maybe it'll be the poster. I don't know. But if things are still really uncertain, then Universal may decide not to do it at all. You know, so I think the earliest you will see anything is probably the virtual Comic-Con. I think would be the earliest, which is only what, like a month from now or something like that. I don't think you're going to see anything for the rest of June. I said that a couple of weeks ago. Blum pretty much confirmed that. And July, you know, you got the virtual Comic-Con. Theaters are beginning to open up, limited capacity. Tenants not till the end of the month, which is the big one, right? That's sort of the big guinea pig here. There are others, right? I think Unhinged, like there's smaller ones, I think, but Tenant's sort of the tent pole, you know, no pun intended. So I don't know, man. If nothing happens at the virtual Comic-Con and July is kind of like June in terms of like the coronavirus and the pulse of the industry, then I don't think so. You know, but they are watching very closely. The best thing you can do right now is to hope. And if you're religious, pray. I'm not, but if that helps, by all means, knock yourself out. That these theaters open up to roaring success and that the spikes go down, because that at the end of the day will allow you to get your trailer and poster sooner. But we're going to be moving into July in a couple of weeks, and you know, that's 3 months out. Now, again, something to keep in mind too is that studios generally will only market movie. It doesn't mean you don't see things before or later, but generally studios like to have a 3 to 4 month window to market their movies. Like a real marketing push is what I'm saying, right? I mean, you might get a teaser trailer a year out, you know, or 8 months out. But in terms of a marketing push, like the marketing campaign has begun, and it depends on the size of the movie. It depends. I mean, a Star Wars movie would probably get a lot more going on in that 3 or 4 months than a Halloween movie. You know what I mean? But generally speaking, studios like that 3 to 4 months out. That's when the official trailer will drop, and then maybe a poster, and you know, maybe you'll get some articles and some interviews on like HalloweenDailyNews.com, or you know, you'll get like certain things, you know, and they slowly, insidiously, that's a bad word, but you know, I mean, it's a horror word, that's why I chose it. But it means that things are progressively building, but to a horrible result. And that's not what I mean, but you know, obviously to get the movie is not a horrible result. But anyway, so, but these things are slowly moving, and they drop those things, and they have specific times and dates and reasons why they will drop a trailer here and a poster there and that interview there and that there and that they're I mean, these are multi-million-dollar campaigns. Nothing is arbitrarily done, nothing. And so when we hit July, we're still 3 months out. So it's not panic mode yet, because you could still drop the trailer in July and the poster, and you could still be okay. You could still do it in September. You know, you could still, or in August, excuse me. You could still do it there. September's getting a little late. You know what I mean? I think by September we'll know. I think by the middle of August, we should know whether or not Halloween will be releasing in October. Maybe sooner, but certainly by the middle of August, we'll know. But yeah, so anyways, that's long-winded, I know, but I know it's a big question that a lot of people wanted to know my thoughts on, and I just think it's important that we understand that you know, I don't when studio executives, when they say certain things, you know, listen to what they're saying, but think about it, you know, and then think about the industry and where we are, and do your own research, learn about how if you want to be more well-versed on being able to predict certain things, learn about the business side of Hollywood. Because if you can learn about the business side of Hollywood, and you don't have to be a scholar. I don't claim to be a scholar. There's just certain things that I learned in school and that I've always kept up on. And yes, working in the industry helps me to keep up on that for sure. But I cannot tell you how it's helped me be right about certain things or close on certain things. And then I'm completely wrong on other things. You know what I mean? It happens, right? But learn how Hollywood works as a business. And if you learn about that, when you hear certain people say certain things or you read certain things in articles, you'll be able to decipher what that means or what they probably mean. Do you know what I mean? And then you can kind of come back to your, to your channel or to your friends or wherever and be like, well, here's what's said. And usually, this is what this kind of means because of this, this, and this, and this, and this, right? And that's why if you take anything away from what I've been rambling on here about the last 10 minutes or so about this, learn about the business side of Hollywood and how the links and all the moving parts, not just the end result, the glitz side, but the business side, and marketing and yeah, you'll be better for it. And I think you'll be able to, when you hear certain things said and people talk about certain things, you'll just be able to know what it generally means, when people say this, or say that. So that's my thought on it. Not surprising to me. No Halloween Kills trailer this month. So yeah, I got to wait to see how the theaters go or how things go in the theater, how the theater movie going experience goes. There we go. I'll just say that. Hey, a couple of super chats I know I missed here because that was a long ramble. Let me go on here. David Goliath. Yes. Okay. So Agent Priest, thank you very much, buddy. Says, what do you think about Loomis returning? Is this a joke? Because I don't know if this is a joke because not everybody tunes into every show I do. I think Loomis returning, it doesn't surprise me. Again, it's not about whether he's returning or not. He is okay. The question is how is he returning? He can be in it. You can see his face and he can have dialogue with his face on camera, or it could be his trench coat flailing in the wind as he runs down the sidewalk going, Michael! Well, technically he's in the movie. So that's my thought on that, is I'm more curious on how he's in the movie and how they have brought him back into the movie. But there's one thing to remember, that Loomis, there's no way he's in the movie in current timeline, 2018, in present day, right? For all intents and purposes, because he's dead in this new timeline. They can't just say, well, he's actually not dead. He was in hiding. He'd be 100 years old. So clearly, if he's back, it's in the flashback. And then how is it? So to me, it's all in the execution. Less is usually always more. So I'm hoping that it's not overdone. Intel Wild sends in a super chat. Thank you very much, buddy. He says, Dave, sorry if you mentioned it already, but when will the Indiegogo teaser for It's Me, Billy come out? Great question, man. And no, I haven't answered that. The Indiegogo teaser for It's Me, Billy, we are hoping in the next couple weeks because that's when we want to launch the campaign. So, again, we're really excited about this, folks. We think the Indiegogo teaser looks really good. We're happy with it. It's just a little... The point of the Indiegogo teaser is to give you a sense of the tone and feel for what we want to bring to the actual production. And again, it's not an official teaser because obviously we haven't shot the movie. So there's no footage from the movie, as I said earlier in the show, but there are things that we did shoot and there are certain clues in there that'll give you a little bit of insight into, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So you might have to pay attention a little bit. But it's an Indiegogo teaser to get people excited about this project and about hopefully donating to the cause. It's not really a cause, but it's a Black Christmas cause. We need justice for Black Christmas because they've had two shitty remakes, in my opinion. And that has nothing to do with anything political. I just didn't enjoy the movies. So justice for Billy. But we're really excited about it. So, you know, and the campaign will be your standard campaign. And what I mean by that is obviously there are perks, there are low perks, which will be most affordable or affordable to mostly everybody. And of course, the higher you go up the chain, like any campaign, the more expensive they do become, but the more you get for that, obviously. And then you just have to make the decision based on, you know, just you know, be appropriate to your situation. And, but anything helps. Anything helps. We're also thinking about setting up like a tip line, you know, like a PayPal thing where maybe you have a couple extra bucks, you know, you've already purchased a perk, but you have a couple of extra bucks and you're like, well, I don't want another perks. I just want to, here's $5. You can send it to us. You know what I mean? We're going to be doing It's Me Billy-a-thons on here as well with the cast on here and raising money that way. And, you know, and, yeah, we're really excited about it, guys. So, but we need your help. We need your help to bring Billy back in a real good way. So, yeah. So yes, hopefully launching in the next, well, very soon. Like I said, next couple of weeks, within the next couple of weeks. Super chat, David versus Goliath said, could they release it in August, 2 months to market? Yes. Yeah, they could. Yeah, they could. Yep. Yeah, they could. I mean, you would see an adjustment made. So you would see things just sort of, so everything they were going to do, say over 4 months, they would probably now have to do over 2. But so you would see the marketing campaign ramp up and things would feel like it's in your face more. At the same time, they would also be making sure that they're not overdoing it either. So there might be certain things that they would have to adjust, certain things that are part of the marketing campaign, whether it's interviews, whether it's, you know, shows, whether it's featurettes. I mean, maybe there's certain things they will, like maybe they were going to release over 4 months, they were going to release, you know, 2 trailers, poster, 6 interviews, who knows, right? And now maybe over 2 months, they're like, you know what, let's release 1 trailer and then go into the TV spots instead of 2 trailers into the TV. Like they might, things will have to be adjusted, right? But certainly, yes, you can do it. But if we get into September, you know, and like I said, I think by the middle of August, we're going to know. And we might even know before then, but I think the middle of August is like your cutoff. If we get to the middle of September and there's nothing, I don't think the thing's releasing in October. I really don't. I think it's a foregone conclusion by that point. But all depends on what happens in the world, man. All depends what happens in the world. Let's see here. Super chat comes in from David versus Goliath. Sorry, Dave, you answered my question after. Oh, I did. Okay, there you go. Perfect. No problem. Super chat from Wayne Gottke. Thank you very much, Wayne. Appreciate that. Says the quintessential Halloween plot twist would be if we find out that the very first franchise murder, Judith, survived her 1963 attack and makes her appearance to the Halloween nursery rhyme and makes her reappearance to the Halloween nursery rhyme in 1963. Yes, I agree with you that would be probably an incredible twist. However, I don't know if that twist would be, I don't know if that's it's not a twist I would like, because I think the death of Judith is incredibly important to Michael's arc, Michael's character. It is the foundation for the beginning of everything. And, you know, he murdered his 16-year-old sister or whatever, how old she was, 16, 17. I know Sandy was a bit older, but the character I think was that age. And, you know, I mean, it's to remove that and have her suddenly return does feel a little shoehorned in. I agree with what you're saying. Like, I agree with what you're saying. But if we wanted to take it seriously and look at it on paper, and if this came across my desk and I was an executive, I'd be looking at this thinking to myself, like, oh, wow, cool. Like, whoa, that would, you know, holy shit. And there's no doubt there would be people out there that would go, whoa, awesome. You know, but is it right for the character? Is it right for the story? You know, and I feel that you devalue and sort of water down the importance of that opening scene and how important it was that Michael actually took her life, you know, and how much more meaningful that is to his arc and to his character, rather than he stabs her, but she survives. And we don't know about this for, 40 years because she went into some witness protection program to, and then it just becomes this, it becomes a little convoluted. I think the simpler, the better. I think she was the sacrifice. She was and I'm not saying a sacrifice in a sacrificial way in terms of some sort of spiritual entity and, black magic religious sense. I just mean that she was in principle the sacrifice, the catalyst that started his journey. And why he murdered her, we don't know. And I think if she survives, there's an opportunity to figure that out. And we must never know that. So Judith might hold information that would give us context to why Michael decided to attack her that night. And maybe she was a bitch to him. Maybe she was, maybe he had some sort of sexual, infatuation, incestual thing, even at that age with his, I don't know. Maybe we don't know. But if she survived and she's able to lend context, obviously it all depends if you write it, but naturally, if Judith Myers survived, I got questions. I think we've all got questions. Oh, hello, Judith. Take a seat in that chair there. So what was your relationship like with why the fuck would Michael attack you? What was your relationship like with him? Did you abuse him? Like, were you a dick to him? Was he there would be so many questions you would naturally want to have for that character that if they are not presented to that character or she herself does not present those answers, it would feel strange. It would feel weird. Like, why isn't anybody asking this? It's like, oh my God, it's Judith Myers. You got to ask her this. You know what I mean? So I think keeping her dead keeps all that a mystery and preserves the enigma of Michael Myers. Mark Johnson says, do you guys and dolls think that we've have exhausted the Halloween stuff? I have no more questions about it. Listen, dude, I can talk Halloween all day. I can talk, as you guys know, I'm a Halloween purist, but I certainly can talk, all of the sequels. I can talk, I can put different lenses on and talk about different things, 100%. But certainly it is very rare nowadays that I get asked a Halloween question that I have either not been asked before or have been asked before, that either have been asked before, but maybe not in a long time, or have never been asked before. It's very rare. Look, not everybody watches every show that I do, right? Not everybody can tune into every show. Not everybody watches every video. I mean, there's many times where I'll do a Mcrae live where the main topic isn't about Halloween at all. Most of the content I do on this channel is actually, a lot of it is Halloween, but it's not all, it's not as one-sided as you might think. But when we get to the Q&A portion, a lot of people have a lot of Halloween stuff. And I will always answer it. Because they may not have, it's not their fault. Maybe they couldn't tune in, the last time that I answered it, right? So I will always answer it. Sometimes I might answer it more quickly, just to get through it, but I will always answer it. But yes, we have certainly exhausted many Halloween questions, that's for sure. TMB sends in a super chat, says, Dave, which one is more of a sucker punch to a franchise? Luke throwing the lightsaber over his head in TLJ, or Ronnie White's disgraceful dialogue and Luke throwing his lightsaber in TLJ? Absolute disgrace, 100%. The dialogue in Halloween 07, that's just, he's not a pre-established character. He's a new character. It's Rob Zombie. This is a Rob Zombie film. This is kind of what you expect in a Rob Zombie movie. It's not like it was Dr. Loomis saying that or Laurie saying that, or Michael speaking and him saying that. It was just some arbitrary or some dude that, likes his stepdaughter. The whole scene, the whole thing about it, not just Ronnie, but the entire family dynamic is garbage and unnecessary. So, and he's just complimentary to that. He's just the extra in that scene. but from a character, narrative, history standpoint, oh, it's Luke. 100% it's Luke. I mean, it was, and as I've said a million times, my issues have nothing to do with 40-year-old fanboy expectations. There are very serious character development and story structure flaws in that movie that don't make any sense. It's another first act. It doesn't, I don't care what you think of The Force Awakens. You can't just pretend The Force Awakens didn't happen and then create a new first act, which is why, as I've said, many people have said that The Rise of Skywalker, I was about to say something else there. The Rise of Skywalker feels like a second and third act. It feels rushed. Well, yeah, because it is. Because JJ had to create conflict and resolution all in one movie again. There was no leftover conflict and what's going to happen from the second act. And there should have been. There should have been that cliffhanger moment where it's like, oh my God, because it's the second act of a 3-act play. There was none of that. So there was no conflict. There was no mystery. There was no, so he had to create this. It was like really the Rise of Skywalker, the end of the second act of this new, whether you like the idea or not, if this is the story we're going with, the end of the second chapter should have been when Rey finds out she's a Palpatine. Like that really is sort of, that's where it comes to that crescendo and it's like, oh my God. And everybody's like, no. And she doesn't even know if she's thinking maybe, my place is with him and maybe I need to, and she's really, oh my God. And like that's really it, right? And then the third one is the resolution of that. But to have all of that happen in one movie, yeah, it does feel, I enjoyed it way better than I did The Last Jedi because I think J.J. Abrams delivered a better Star Wars movie than Rian Johnson did. It gave me exactly what I knew I was going to get based on the second chapter. If you don't like The Rise of Skywalker and you think it's a piece of shit, then you can blame The Last Jedi for that. If you think the entire trilogy is a piece of shit, then you can just blame Disney for that. But if you enjoyed The Force Awakens, I thought it was pretty good. Okay, it was that, but it was all right. I enjoyed that. And you loathe the next two installments, don't blame JJ. You got to blame the second chapter because it just threw everything out. So to have Luke throw his lightsaber, the lightsaber that Ben Kenobi gave him, the lightsaber that was his father's, the lightsaber that was that meant so much to him, and the things that he learned. I don't mind that he's a hermit on the island, but to disconnect himself from the Force in the wake of his sister and all that and not going for her, it's an interesting it's an interesting character in a separate movie. I like what Johnson's trying to do, but I don't believe it. I don't believe because of the lessons that the character of Luke has learned, the things that he's gone through with his own father. I don't believe he would have a moment of weakness to destroy his nephew. I don't believe that. I don't believe that he would cut himself off like that. I don't believe it. Not because I don't want it, because of everything that was established before it. You establish these characters this way. These are the messages, these are the morals, these are the lessons that this character has learned. Maybe if we were able to see Luke's fall from grace and we were able to see the things that he has gone through that made him that took him to the island, and we were able to get insight and see his fall from grace, then maybe it would be more believable. But to be introduced to that feels shoehorned in, avant-garde for the sake of it, and just sort of subverting expectations because, well, people are going to think, so we're going to do this. And you just can't do that. So it's not fanboy expectations. I couldn't care less if Luke destroyed a ship in the sky or not. I don't care about that. It's how the character was. I don't believe it. I just think it was a very poor writing. And there's other things about the film that I could go into as well. So definitely Luke is the more blasphemous of the two, for sure. Okay. Let me see here. Anthony Stanfield says, you missed my super chat. Did I, buddy? All right, let me see here. I missed your super chat. Did I miss it? Let me go back here. I thought I answered all yours, but I may not have. Let's see here. So, do you think... no, there it is. Says, do you think they will put to be determined at the end of the trailer? Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I don't. I don't think so. I think they wouldn't put to be determined. I mean, maybe. I think you would just, if they didn't know for sure, like hypothetically, if they needed to get the trailer out now for whatever reason and they didn't know, I mean, you would just probably see nothing, or you would see coming soon, something like that. But I don't think you would see to be determined. And coming soon is just more of a classier cinematic way of saying that anyway. But no, I don't think so. I don't think you will. Let's see here. Intel Wild sends the super chat. Thanks, buddy. Says, Dave, in your professional personal opinion, do you think H Kills will be in theaters this October? I think there's a 50-50 chance professionally. I mean, again, I'm not a studio executive. I'm not my professional status in the entertainment industry is not a filmmaker. Of course, it's a voice actor. But like I said, I mean, in my travels, I've learned a lot and know a lot of people and certainly have been in circles where people have educated me on a lot of things. So I will say that there's right now 50-50 that movie will be in theaters in October. It really now that can go up, right? That's not 50-50 until they announce it. That can go up. So what can eventually happen is that I think it's 50-50 right now. I think that's what it is. I think Blum would tell you that. I don't know if that's what he said because I haven't read the article or watched the interview, but certainly that's my feeling on it based on his quote that I read this morning. But we get to this time next month. We get to August, right? And we see how Tenet does. But let's not forget, Tenet's opening at the end of July too. It was supposed to be opening on like the 17th. It's been pushed by 2 weeks. So... we're really not going to know Tenet. Like, we'll know its opening weekend results, and that'll give us an indication of maybe what the next few weekends will be like. Or what will happen is, over the next couple of weeks, movie theaters will start to allow more people into the theaters, and then in a strange sort of ironic way, you'll see Tenet's numbers begin to go up instead of begin to come down. Because usually when a movie is released, depending on the movie, of course, and depending on the word of mouth. Some movies make, more the next weekend, but generally speaking, movies make the most their opening weekend. And then they start to fall, slowly but surely over the next, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So what you might actually see, it's possible that you might see Tenet make depending on how many theaters are open and depending on what the theater capacity is, and because Tenet will probably be the only big show in town, it might make pretty decent money. It might make a lot of money, but it might be a situation where it makes okay money, right? And then 2 weeks later, it actually makes the same as it did opening weekend, or maybe a smidgy more because more people are going now. Who knows? I have no idea. But that's at the end of July going into August. So I don't think we're going to know for sure whether that becomes 60-40, 70-30, or 80-20. Like I said, probably not for another 2 months, I think. Now, maybe not. I mean, maybe when you hit July... And maybe, something, I mean, it could be earlier. It could be earlier than that. It could be. It's not going to be June, but it's possible in July you might get some sort of announcement. But I think the middle of August, if we don't hear anything by the middle of August, I don't think that thing is releasing in October. I really don't. Right now it's 50-50. That could go up either way, down or up, over the next few weeks. Just Pay attention to what's going on, and not necessarily if you want to know what's happening with Halloween, don't pay attention to Halloween. Pay attention to what's going on with, Unhinged and Tenet and movie theaters and capacity and whether people feel comfortable, procedures, protocols. Pay attention to what's going on, in California and the industry as a whole. What's happening with the industry? What level? Pay attention. Look at other films that were supposed to come out in and around that time. What have they done? Are they holding? Look at all that stuff. Don't worry about what Halloween is doing right now. Look at that stuff, because that'll tell you probably what's going to happen over here. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, in your opinion, what is the best thing about being Canadian? And what is one thing you would prefer Canada would adopt from the United States? What is one of the best things about being Canadian? Well, let me see. That's a good question. I think one of the great things about being Canadian, I think, is we are a massive country. We're the second largest country in the world, land-wise. Not population, of course. We're very small. We have about, give or take, I think the actual consensus is like 38 million or something. I think that's a little more. I think we have about 40 million people in this country, which is not a lot. I mean, the state of California has about 35 mil. So it's like essentially the population of Canada is in the state of California. I would say that Canada, one of the best things about being Canadian is that it's a relatively safe country. And I think, and now you can say it's our values, you can say it's this, that, and the other. But the fact of the matter is that we are only a country of 40 million people. I mean, the less people you have, the safer it logically will probably be. The United States has 320 million people, give or take. Obviously, there's going to be more crime, more murder, more guns, right? And obviously, there's a gun culture in the U.S. We don't have that here. You can have guns here, of course, but it's not part. We don't have the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all that kind of stuff. So it's not a gun culture here. Now, we do have guns here that make their way across the border. Most of the crime that is committed here is done with illegal guns. We do have murder here. We have shootings here. I know people think that Canada is some utopia. I mean, maybe compared to the United States, it's a utopia, but it's certainly not, it's not void of crime and pedophiles and all the shit that you see in the States. It's just a lot less. Toronto, of course, being the fourth largest city in North America, for a city its size, think about that. Fourth largest in North America. So you have Mexico City, New York City, Los Angeles, Toronto, then Chicago, I believe. We get about, and this isn't an exact stat, but I just know this from watching the news. I think in Toronto, we get about like maybe between 75 to 80 homicides a year. And of course, you compare that to Chicago, that gets like 30 a day. It's like for a city the size of Toronto, it's pretty safe. You know what I mean? But the same principles apply, right? I wouldn't walk down a dark alley at 3 o'clock in the morning in a bad neighborhood in Toronto either. You know what I mean? It's just common sense, right? But I think it's probably the security that you feel, that to live in a thriving economic powerhouse. I mean, it's not as powerful as the United States, but it certainly, one of the powerhouses of the Western world, it certainly is a relatively safe country. And I feel very safe here. Like I go out jogging at night. Like last night I went for a jog at 11:30 at night. And I went down, this path and I felt, I feel safe. Now that doesn't mean something can't happen. It does. But relatively speaking, I feel safe. So I think off the top of my head is the level of security that I feel. And when I travel to the United States, whether I'm going to New York or LA, certainly I feel safe. I do, but I am more aware of the culture. I'm more aware of the probability is very low that you would walk past somebody on the street here carrying a gun. I mean, something like a law-abiding, like somebody like, they have a conceal and carry or whatever it's called, like in the States, have a permit. And I'm sure that's different from state to state. But certainly, you're more likely to pass somebody on the street in the States carrying a gun, good person or bad guy, than you ever are here. And so that's something that you always, you keep, you're aware that you're in, you're in a different sort of climate. You know what I mean? But I feel safe down there too. Like I just apply the same thing. I just don't go to, I don't go to a dark alley in the middle of LA. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't go there. So you just keep your wits about you. But I would say that. Off the top of my head anyway. You ask me again in a week and maybe it'll change. And I know some people, I don't know if people have said this here in the chat, but people tend to, of course, you have free healthcare. You have free healthcare. Yeah, that definitely is great, but we pay a lot higher taxes. Here in the province of Ontario, our taxes are 13%. So, it's free, but we pay for it in taxes. But I will say that it is my wallet. My wallet is here. Finally, my wallet is with me today. This is I'll show you guys this. I'll try to keep the information. Let me see if I can keep the information. So this is, I don't want to, okay, I'll cover that up. This is my health card. That is my health card. You see me there? That is my health card. This is the health card. And this is my OHIP card, the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, I think it is. And this is what I take. It's got a little scan thing on the back. This is what I take to and this pays for like checkups. Like I got to go to the doctor because I have an ache. I go in, I give my health card and it's paid for, right? Now that doesn't mean everything is paid for. Prescriptions are not. If I wanted to get plastic surgery, that's not paid for. But if I, it's not just free, like everything's free. Oh, it's a utopia, everything's free. No. It's the standardized medical care. Like, your doctor checkups, you got to go because you got a cough, you got the flu, you need a checkup, a physical. It's just all the regular checkups that you would go to your doctor for, whatever, is free. But certain surgeries are not, and certain blood tests are not. I mean, there's many times where I'd walk into a room and I'm like, oh, I got to pay for that. It's not covered by OHIP. Oh, okay, fine. Anyway, so I'm digressing here. I'm going on and on and on. But certainly I know that is something that's cool. But sometimes privatized healthcare can be better because it's, there are many people that have shit they need done here and they can't get it done because the wait times are just too long. And they go to the United States to get some privatized healthcare and they just walk right in. It's a figure of speech. And they can get it done there faster and maybe even better. So there's pros and cons for both. Just keep that in mind. There's pros and cons for both. What do I think that that Canada should adopt? I think Canada, I wish, and this is more in line with my personality. I'm very, I find Canada a little passive and I'm very loud and my dad was like that. I'm very American in personality. I don't mean blowhard like some, hick, fuck it up. I don't mean like that, but just very theatrical and loud and it's just who I am. And Canada as a whole, it doesn't mean we don't have people like that here, but Canada as a whole, generally we have that stereotype being so polite and nice, and there is a lot of that. It's not as much as you would think. We have blowhard fuck faces here too. But certainly I think, I don't think we take enough risks in this country. I think, and again, I'm speaking personally in terms of the entertainment industry and there are so many incredibly talented people in this country, but because our cultures and our industries are so interconnected, we suffer from an inferiority complex here. And it's like we constantly seek approval from the United States. A lot of countries do that. And the United States it runs the world when it comes to pop culture and influence in that way. And I wish that more people in this country could be proud of the talent, to let their talent stand on its own. That doesn't mean that you don't end up going to the States or get offers from the States or what. No, I mean, that's probably bound to happen because that's, You know, I mean, that's where the money is. You know what I mean? That's the big leagues, right? Hollywood, the big, you know, but certainly our industries are so connected. I mean, and working in the industry that I do here, I mean, I deal with people who work in LA all the time. So they shoot everything up here. So I just wish that there was more of an aggressive, not aggressive in anger. I don't mean that, but more of a passion, more of a go-getter attitude, you know, rather than more of sort of passive, you know, in certain ways. I wish we had more of that here. And of course, are there people here that have that? Yeah, but I mean, culturally, there's more of a passive identity to the country, and I wish we were more go-getters, more had that go-getter mentality, because I have that, you know, and sometimes I feel that sometimes people, you know, it's like, come on, guys, come on, let's go, you know, like you know. So I would say that's probably a weird answer, but unexpected question, really good question, by the way. And I like questions like that, challenge me to think on the spot and in the moment. I would say that. I would say, but again, ask me in a week and maybe it'll be something different. Johnny Melancholy says, hey, Dave, do you think Halloween Kills will be delayed? If so, when will we see a trailer? 50-50 chance, trailer's not coming this month. There we go. I only say it like that because I've mentioned it about 4 times already during the chat. Agent Priest says, hey, Dave, would you ever travel to New Mexico? To New Mexico? Sure. If I had a reason to go to New Mexico, if I was doing work, or it wouldn't be a destination. I mean, maybe if I was traveling across the United States, like I was doing a road trip, you know, and I wanted to travel from California to Florida or New York to LA or something like that and just take, you know, a couple of weeks and do a big road trip. Yeah, I obviously would want to travel through New Mexico for sure, because I'd want to go through the South. I think would be really cool. Or maybe kind of go up or maybe, you know, down like this or whatever. I think it'd be cool. But not just, I would never take a vacation there. It's not a spot that I would think of going for no reason. Let me see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Okay, no, I don't think I did. Radio Daddy says, have you seen the obscure British psychological horror movie Possum 2018? You should. It's a masterpiece that needs recognition. Radio Daddy says it's a masterpiece that needs recognition. I have not seen it. I've never heard of it. I will make a note of that right now, actually, and put that on my, okay, 2018 British. I can't promise I'll watch it, but I definitely will look it up to see if it's something that'll interest me. Very cool. Grant McGowan says William Shatner is Canadian. Oh, yes, he is. William Shatner, Ryan Reynolds, Jim Carrey, John Candy, Michael J. Fox, Keanu Reeves is half Canadian, I believe. There's so many people that you wouldn't think are Canadian. Denis Villeneuve, although that's pretty explanatory. He's French Canadian, the director there of Arrival and Dune and Prisoners, and there's a lot people who you were like, they're Canadian. Oh yeah, for sure. Look it up. It's crazy. Zach Axiola says Sir Ian Holm died today at the age of 88. Your thoughts on his career as an actor? Well, I was not. I mean, prolific in a lot of ways. Admittedly, he isn't somebody that I watched a lot, but certainly, yeah. I mean, it's sad, but he was 88. He lived a good life, and he will be remembered for the many real cool roles that he did. Certainly in Lord of the Rings, which is what many, of course, I know him from earlier films, but a lot of people came to know him from those films, and certainly, yeah, he. But again, I don't know. I don't know a lot about his career or him as a man or a person. So I saw that he died and I was like, oh, he died. That's too bad. And that's kind of it for me. You know what I mean? But certainly, yeah, I mean, in a lot of movies for sure. Matthew Hatzamelia says, Dave, have you seen Twin Peaks from David Lynch? And are you, David Lynch, no, David Lynch, is he Canadian? No, I'm thinking of David Cronenberg. Maybe Lynch is Canadian too, but I think it's Cronenberg. And are you familiar with, oh, yes, I am. Yes, the, how do you pronounce that? Is that Meissner technique of acting, where you taught a specific technique in school. I know. I just want to get the correct. Because I know this. And I remember this in school. Yes. I want to get the correct pronunciation on it. Just one second here. Meissner. That's right. Meissner. I've heard people say Meissner, and I'm like, that's not Meissner. Meissner. Yeah. Listen, I was in acting school about 18 years ago, so I don't remember a lot of it, but I will say that I do remember covering this in it. And yeah, it's really fascinating when you learn about this, and you learn about the detail, like the nuances, and how this approach is used more so than you would think, and how important it actually is, and how it creates a sense of believability in a lot of what you see. I did, but to be fair, I have not used it in a long time. But certainly, hang on. I wanted to make sure that, yes, that's right. Sanford Meisner. I wanted to get the guy's name, Sanford Meisner. Yeah, like it can be very cerebral for a lot of people. It's definitely a approach that it essentially allows you to disconnect from your bias, and sort of really, I'm doing a poor job on I could do a whole fucking show on this, and maybe I should. But to answer your question, yes, I do know about it. Yes, we did learn about it. And yes, I do think that it can be very important depending on the role you're playing, and you can use it as a tool. It's not like you use that approach for everything, but it's a great tool for an actor to have in his or her tool belt. Yes, I agree with that. Frank Riker sends in a very generous super chat. Thank you very much, Frank. Says, Dave, I was teaching Blum. There you go. Fuck, Frank and Blum are so connected, man. Dave, I was teaching Blum how to swim with arm floaters, and he told me why Michael is the way he is. Apparently, it will be revealed in Loomis's notes that Michael's parents were cousins and Judith his grandmother. Wow! Judith was Michael's grandmother. That is incredible. That explains it. That really does explain it. Holy snapping crap. Judith was Michael's grandmother the whole time. Fascinating. Frank, you are a wealth of inside knowledge here. Frank, my invoice is in the mail. Unbelievable, Frank. Unbelievable. His grandmother. Oh, that's funny. Nick Push's Horror Channel sends in a super chat. Says, hey, Dave, I've heard you mention your brother got you into horror when you were younger. Yes, my brother Neil. Just curious, what does he think of your channel and career? That's a good question. I don't know if he watches my channel or not, but certainly I know that he's proud of me. And I know that when I was nominated I've been nominated 4 times for a Voice Arts Award, which is, to be nominated, to get nominated once, and anybody who's ever been nominated for anything will tell you, to get nominated once is amazing. To get nominated 4 times is ridiculous. And I do not take that for granted. I am truly humbled that my peers in Hollywood saw it worthy enough to do that. That meant a lot. Didn't win, haven't won. Still just a 4-time nominee, but still, that's amazing, right? I know that he has expressed how proud he is of me for that, and how disappointed he is that the 4th time was not a charm. Yeah, I'd say he's very proud. He's very proud. I don't talk to him every day, obviously, because he lives Northern Ontario, and we don't talk probably as much as we should, which sometimes happens. We don't have any animosity between us. It's just, my family's not a very close family. Even when my parents were alive, and my mom and dad had been divorced for about 6 years before they both passed. There's no animosity between myself and my siblings. Like when whenever we're together, we all get along. I mean, there might be a quabble or something about something, that can be. But certainly we get along. Like, there's no issues. Like, we have no issues with each other, which is not a very close family. Some families are like tight and close and they speak to their brother or their sister like fucking every week. And then some are just like, I'll see you when I see you. And that's kind of like what it is. And it shouldn't be that way because they're your blood and your family. But those of you that have that kind of a family know that sometimes it's just the way it is. Just the way it is. So I do know that he's proud of me, definitely. And he was pulling for me to win last year, which I didn't. But certainly it's. I say this though, and something that I've there's an old cliche where it's like it's an honor to be nominated. Look, it is. It's not either or, right? It is an honor to be nominated, 100%. But of course, everybody wants to win. But the nominations, those nominations that I have on my wall here, and those are them there, actually. Those are the plaques. I have them in frames and I have plaques as well. To be nominated at that level is truly an honor. And so I've been disappointed when my name's not called to go up to accept the award. But very quickly afterwards, I'm just like, I'm here. I'm at Warner Brothers Studios in Hollywood. I'm on the back lot schmoozing with, all sorts of people. I just walked the red carpet with Sigourney Weaver and Rosario Dawson. And like, it's so very quickly, it turns from, damn, oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. Oh man, that was so close to like, well, because it's like, look where I am. It's fucking amazing. You know what I mean? So I hopefully maybe fifth time will be I don't know if I'll get nominated ever again. I have no idea. But if I do, hopefully I'll win. But it's tough. It's tough, man. The competition is fierce. But yes, he is definitely proud of me because I know that he expresses his pleasure when I've been nominated or heard me on TV. There's been times where he's been watching TV and the next time I talk to him, he'll ask, hey, did you do the such and such ad? And I'll be like, I did. He's like, I saw it the other day. I thought that was you. So yeah, no, he's proud for sure. We're just not a close family, unfortunately. And it's I wish we were closer, but I don't know. Maybe it's our personalities. Maybe we're all similar and I don't know. But definitely yes. And yes, he did get me into horror. It was my brother Neil that introduced me to Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, and Halloween. Yep. And Neil said to me that the reason why Michael Myers was his favorite, beyond the fact that, the Halloween theme and the cool mask and and all that, he loved all that. Who doesn't, right? He said the reason why he ended up gravitating towards that more was because Halloween was the first horror movie he ever watched and it didn't give him nightmares. Freddy, nightmares. Jason, nightmares. The Fog, nightmares. Anything that was in and around that time, right? Early 80s, nightmares. Halloween, nope. So I thought that was kind of funny. I've never had a nightmare about any horror movie, but he did. So I thought that was kind of funny. Chris Ewan says, Chris Unwin says, hey Dave, where did you first watch the Halloween movies? It would have been at home, in my home in Bolton, Ontario, Canada, just a little town north of Toronto. And it probably would have been early 80s, 84, 85, 86, somewhere in there, probably. Yeah, somewhere in there. Let me see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. The New Mexico. H Kills, you missed my super chat. Nick Pusher's Horror Channel. Frank Riker. Swim. Okay, good. I don't believe I did. Excuse me. Ooh. I hope you guys are doing well, my man. I hope you guys, in 135 people watching. I think we hit about 155 at one point. 20 people came in and were like, fuck this, and left. Jessica James says, I'm your family now, Nancy. I'm your family now, Nancy. By the way, update on Dylan's new nightmare. So I get it. I can't speak for Cecil. Maybe he's in the chat and he can chime in. But I will say that we were hoping to shoot at the beginning of August. That's been delayed again for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the industry is slowly but surely beginning to open up again. And Nora Hewitt, our awesome special effects makeup artist, shout out to Nora Hewitt, who is just so nice and talented. And I just cannot wait to be sitting in the makeup chair and just having her apply all sorts of shit on my face for 3 or 4 hours every day for a week. Nora, you're awesome. You're amazing. Your fiance is amazing as well. They're both do this kind of thing together. And I can't wait to work with either of you. Both of you, I should say. But I will say that Nora needs a little more time to do up the Freddy makeup. I obviously had the cast of my face done. I had my teeth done. I had my hand, and but she couldn't do much because everything was shut down in terms of makeup and props and things like that, right? The industry was shut down. It was shut down everywhere. Shut down here, everywhere. So now that things are slowly beginning to open up again, Nora is beginning to sort of slowly begin the process of finally building the Freddy Krueger look for me for Dylan's new Nightmare. So that's one reason why, it's probably, we thought it was going to be the beginning of August, but we need a little more time for that. Also, the border between Canada and the US is still closed. It's been closed since I think the end of March or something like that. It is closed now. It will be closed until the end of July. So, and at that point, there's even no guarantee that it will open, and it will probably open in stages. So there's that to think about as well. So I can't even get to the States until the borders open up. So, we are like us with It's Me, Billy. We are continuing to work diligently behind the scenes and just sort of, work on that and just be as prepared as we can possibly be when things incrementally begin to open up. And Cecil is doing the same thing. They are continuing to work hard They are continuing to work hard behind the scenes, slowly but surely, for when we can start to move into actual production. So it's still happening. It's just the whole COVID-19 thing, folks, have thrown everything into a holding pattern. I mean, if there was no pandemic, the movie would have been shot in May. We would have been done. Dylan's New Nightmare would be well into post-production, and our Indiegogo campaign for It's Me, Billy would be done, and we'd know whether or not we were able to do it. So crazy, but it happens. Danita Brown says, I visited Ontario twice in my teens in the late 70s. Very cool. Loved it there. I ran track and field with the Indianapolis Scarborough. Yes, Scarborough. That's how you say that, folks. Is that what the INDPLS, Indianapolis, or am I saying or am I assuming that abbreviation wrong? Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Anyways, the Scarborough. Oh, I'm probably saying that wrong because it's the Oh, no, I would be saying that wrong. That means something else. Scarborough Peace Games. I get it. Wondered if you've ever heard of it now. Defunct Peace Games. I've never heard of it. Scarborough, for those of you that don't know what that is Toronto's eastern borough. So you have like the city of Toronto proper, right? Which is sort of the, where the CN Tower is and where, the Dome and the Blue Jays and all the skyscrapers and, you have like the central sort of Toronto, right? And then to the east, you have Scarborough, which is Toronto's eastern borough. And then you have to the west, you have, it's spelt like Etobicoke, but or Etobicoke. It's like Etobicoke, but it's actually pronounced Etobicoke. The K in Coke is silent. Etobicoke. So you got Scarborough to the east, Etobicoke to the west, York to the north, and that's all sort of Toronto. So anyway, yeah. So you went to Scarborough. I don't know if they have the games anymore, Danita. I'm not really sure, but that's very cool that you're up here. A long time. You got to come back. So a lot has changed. Toronto's not the city it was in the late 70s, boy. I mean, it's huge now. It's crazy. And I saw online that Toronto right now has about about 5 skyscrapers that are all in development on some stage that are all going to be over like 300 meters tall or something crazy like that. It's just insane. Like this city, it already looks like Chicago. I mean, not quite, but pretty much. It's going to look like New York in like another 10 years. Like it's fucking insane. The amount of towers that are going up here. It's crazy. Not quite New York. New York will always be New York, but you know what I'm saying. Grant McGowan says, hey, Dave, could you do Near Dark on Two Dudes someday? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I'll have to talk to Tony and see what he thinks of that. Let me see here. Scrolling back. Johnny T says, Dave, have you ever stayed at the hotel in the Blue Jays Stadium where the rooms overlook the field? It was a trip I planned this year for a Yankees game until the virus. I've never stayed in it. But yes, for those of you that don't know, at the Rogers Center, formerly Sky Dome, I think it's still Rogers Center. Rogers is the company that owns the Blue Jays, so naturally they call the Dome the Rogers Center, and I'm like, it sounds like a shopping mall, but anyway, the Rogers Center, Sky Dome, there's a hotel in the actual stadium, and depending on what room you get, or I think maybe all the rooms are like this. Yeah, because it would make no sense to stay there if you weren't looking over the field. Anyway, I'm not sure how it works, but there are rooms that look over the field out in center field, and I think they're still there. Yeah, well, obviously, because you booked it. So, no, I've never stayed there, never looked out there, never been in there. I mean, I've been in the Dome, obviously, to watch games, but never been to the hotel. So that's really cool. That's too bad. Were you able to get a refund, though, or maybe like to schedule it for later? What's happening with MLB? That's so far. I don't understand why they just don't cancel it. Just cancel MLB, cancel NBA, cancel hockey. Just cancel it all. Just put an asterisk beside each. You know what? Nobody's going to give I know there's money involved, but how much money could you possibly make if there's nobody in the stands? I know. Well, of course, then again, there's the TV revenue. The TV revenue might even be more, actually. Oh, that's totally probably what it is. If fans can't go to the games, they'll be watching on TV. Oh my God. The revenue would be huge. Bet you that's why. But for me, I would just cancel it. I'll put an asterisk beside it. Just like, you know what? It is what it is. We'll start again next year. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. But anyway. Let me see here. Alexander Dirksen says, what were your favorite TV shows and cartoons from your childhood and memories watching them with your family? I don't have too many memories watching cartoons and shows with my family. Because again, I come from a broken home, right? So, and what I mean by that means that you come from a home where one of the two parents is not there because of, a divorce or whatnot. And my siblings were always much older than me. So I'm 41. The next closest in age to me is my brother Neil, who will be 50 this year. And then my brother Bob, who will be 52 this year. My sister Jill, who I think is going to be 56 this year. So there's a big gap. I wasn't the mistake, by the way. I was planned. But there is a gap. So even though I wasn't an only child, growing up, it was like I had to play by because my siblings were always so much older than me. And so it's not like I had a brother that was my age or a sister that was my age. So I was very much sort of like an only child. So I did a lot of movie watching on my own. I did a lot of playing with my cars and toys on my own. I did a lot of watching cartoons and TV shows on my own. Again, it's not that my parents were evil people or anything. It was just the dynamic of the situation. My mother and father were great to me. I had a great mom and dad. It's one of the things that made me, listen, if you have a good relationship with your parents, when they pass, it's never easy, no matter what. But because I always knew how proud of me my parents were, and what they thought of me and what they thought of my career, and I had a good relationship with them, it made the death of them easier to cope. Not easy. It's awful when you lose a parent, but they didn't die me not knowing what they thought or unfinished or wasn't, so it made it easier to cope. So I had a good relationship with them. but my dynamic growing up was very much almost like an only child. I mean, I wasn't, because at dinner time, I'd be sitting there at the table with my older siblings and my mom, or, whatever the case is, right? And we'd laugh and have fun. But it was just a strange dynamic. They were off doing, Bob and, my brothers, Neil and Bob, were like 15, 16. And I was like, 5, they're not going to be hanging. And then of course, when I did want to hang out with them and their friends, they're like, Dave, it's like this little brother hanging out, he's 5. So it's very much kind of like what you see in shows like Stranger Things, where you got like the older siblings and then you have like that little kid that wants to tag along. It was like that. You know what I mean? So I was very much entertaining myself, when I was little. So, but what shows I watched, of course, oh God, He-Man and Transformers and Ninja Turtles and movies, of course. Well, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Halloween. But I was watching them alone. It wasn't until I got to be a teenager where I started to watch those movies with friends. And then as a young adult with, or as a teenager with girlfriends and, things like that, right? But as a young boy in the 80s, I was pretty much entertained. And I was okay with it. I was fine with it. I wasn't like, I was like, oh, I wish I could have somebody to watch. I was totally fucking soaked in. Probably was better I wasn't watching it with anybody. Probably that. Matthew Hetzemelia says, Dave, what are you doing for the rest of your day? Any VO work? I do have some voiceover work I have to do. Yes, my agent just texted me, actually, and I do have a few bits of VO that I have to do. And I'm also going to be working on It's Me, Billy, because I have to finish I'll be diving into post-production on the teaser, and then I have to send out a few Zoom links because we are doing a virtual table read with the cast next week, which will be recorded. I will record that, and that'll probably wind up on the Blu-ray. And then, so I got to send out that. I'm also having a production meeting with our DP, of course, Greg Bennett, who we're so excited to work with. I mean, for those of you that don't know, some of you may not, our DP who will shoot. Now, Greg didn't shoot the teaser. Myself and Bruce shot the teaser, but the Indiegogo teaser. But Greg will be shooting the movie, and Greg is a professional DP. He's a 2-time CSC, Canadian Society of Cinematographer Award nominee. He's at the top of his game, and so he's really excited to shoot this film. And we are. We have a production meeting with him next Saturday, which I have to set that up. So there's a lot I have to do this afternoon. VO work, and It's Me, Billy. That's what I will be doing this afternoon. And, of course, having some lunch. Probably, too. We'll be in there somewhere. Let's see. Intel Wild sends in a $10 super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, Dave, would you rather be nominated for a Voice Arts Award 5 times but never win, or be nominated once and win but never nominated again? That's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, obviously, that's a really good question. I think most people would probably take the nominated once and win because you have the trophy, you have it on your mantle, you have it there, right? You were, But there is something, there is, as funny as it sounds, there is something to be said for somebody who, let's say, gets nominated 5 times but doesn't win, but a person that gets nominated once and wins but never again. Because then you have to start to look at the variables for that year, right? What was the competition like? Where are they now? Right? Is that one person who was nominated once and won, are they relevant still? Are they continuing to work? Was it, for all intents and purposes, I don't want to say a fluke, but was it just sort of right time, right place? That person won that. And it's not that they're not talented, but it's just that right time, right place. That was just things but are they still working? Are they relevant? Are they continuing to work? Are they, because maybe they sort of fall off the map. Maybe they, there's a lot of, and then your 5 nominations, not only is it 5 nomination, but it shows that you are consistently relevant, consistently working at the top of your game, consistently. And that in and of itself sometimes can mean more than a one-off win. But there's a lot of variables at play to that, right? You got to go deeper. That's a great question. I don't know, but instinct tells me maybe my nominations in the moment, because the more nominations you get, even though you see, you have to understand that if you're nominated, let's say 10 times, but you never win, that isn't a reflection that you are not good enough to win, because you have to break it down by year. You have to break it down by competition. You have to break it down by, it might have been down to you and one other person. And because I don't get to vote, I don't know what that is, right? Now, I have thought about becoming a member of SAVOAs. I'm not a member of SAVOAs, which is the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. It's the equivalent of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, but for voiceover work. And I've thought about becoming a member so that maybe I could have an opportunity to vote. But certainly because I'm not privy to that information right now. Who knows, right? It really when you look at nominations just at face value, it's like, oh, that person wasn't good enough to win 5 years in a row or something like that, right? But when you break it down, it's a little more complicated than that. So I've never been asked that question until. That is a fantastic question that I don't know if I have an answer for. I think I will say this, that to be nominated once and win would be great, but there's something to be said about being nominated consistently too. You know what I mean? Like, there is something to be said about saying something like 4-time nominee or 5-time nominee. It's like, wow, that's, but then you could say, but there could be something to be said about saying, Voice Arts Award winner. You know what I mean? So it's not an exact science there, but that's a great question. I like that a lot. Really, really good. Really, really good. All right. How long have we been going here? We've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. Let's take this another 10 minutes. We'll take this thing to 12:50, and I'll have been going for an hour and 45 minutes. So let's do that. Jim Joe says baseball blew it this year. Could have been the only thing on. Oh, well, here's the 2021. Go Braves. There you go. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Hans Gruber says, money will run out quick without the fans in the stands, admissions, and, well, definitely there is a certain amount of money that they will not have. But when it comes to like NFL football, a lot of that is the advertising dollars, because then if there's no fans in the stands, more people will be watching at home on TV, or maybe not. Certainly there is still revenue to be made because of the TV revenue, which is most, I think, in NFL football. And NFL football, it doesn't start till like late August, September anyway. So, but I agree with what you guys are saying, though. I do. Let me go back, make sure I didn't miss any super chats until WoW was the last one, I believe so. Yes. Cool. All right. Let me see here. Nick Townsend sends in a super chat and says, Dave, have you seen the Friends of Eddie Coyle with the great Robert Mitchum? No, I've never heard of it. Is it good? Because maybe that's something I should check out. Edwin A. Sordo says, hey, Dave, what are your advantages of working as an independent filmmaker rather than being a Hollywood-level filmmaker? Well, first of all, let's say that independent, we need to classify independent. All independent means, first of all, what independent means, you can be an independent filmmaker and be working on Hollywood films. What independent means is that when you are, let's say, an independent production company, that just simply means that you are not attached to the major Hollywood studios. So you are not Universal, you're not Paramount, you're not Warner Brothers, you're not, well, it used to be Fox, right? You work independently from the studios. And depending on what happens, depending on your movie, depending on connections made, maybe those studios can distribute your movies. Like Blumhouse is an independent production company, but they are, of course, now they're a lot more Hollywood than they used to be. But certainly they are, the major studios will help to distribute their films. You can be independent doesn't mean amateur, but it can be tossed around that way. There's a difference between home movies and amateurs and people who are working in the film industry. So when you are working in the film industry, you have the connections that are in the industry. You are going about making a movie through the proper channels. But you're working outside of the studio system. You are what I would consider a professional independent filmmaker. Like what Vince DeSante has done with his company, Womp Stomp Films. And that is a professional independent production company. It's not just a name that he's tossed out there arbitrarily. He's gone through the proper channels. He is dishing out original work as well that is playing the festival circuit, but he himself is not attached to any of the studios. But that doesn't mean that he will not eventually develop a relationship with them to be able to make movies independent, and then they have an agreement where they distribute them, if you know what I mean. Anyway, it's a complicated thing. It can be a show all on its own, but the advantages of being an independent filmmaker, taking it at myself and diving deep into it, because It's Me, Billy will be the first real sort of professional production I've done, going through the proper channels and utilizing the connections and the avenues that I have here in the industry in Toronto. It's the first time that we're doing this. And so for me, the advantage is that you do not have a studio that is breathing down your neck. You do not have somebody who is saying that you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way, or we will not distribute your movie. If you don't do it this way, we are funding your project. The money is, independent also means that the money is coming from, it's not coming from the major studios, right? The money is not coming from Warner Brothers. It is being independently funded, whether it's through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whether it's through investors, whatever the case is. So therefore, you have more creative control over the product. Now, what could end up happening is that not with It's Me, Billy, obviously, because it's a fan film, but with original ideas and projects, if they are really good, then Universal, Paramount, they can see that and they see opportunities. And they usually see that through the festival circuit. That's why a lot of original films play the festival circuit. It's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but a lot of the studios attend the festival circuit, and they attend them, to one of the reasons why they attend them is they pay attention to what original films by independent production companies are being shown there. And they if it's really good and gets a lot of bzz, like Paranormal Activity, they see opportunities to distribute those films and make money off them. And of course, make them, the filmmakers, cash as well. But anyway, yeah, it's not the best explanation because it's a convoluted sort of thing, but just know that the independent means, it doesn't mean amateur. I know there are a lot of home movie filmmakers that call themselves independent, and that's not accurate, really. You are an amateur filmmaker. That's more accurate. When you start getting into the industry and you start working and going through the proper channels of making movies, and through independent resources of funding your movies, but the professional way, then you would be an independent filmmaker. It just means void of the studios, right? You are making the movie not connected to the studios, but still professionally, if that makes sense. Yeah, and like I said, the advantage is you don't have studio executives breathing down your neck telling you what to do and what not to do. Really, that's it. That's a Cliff Notes kind of wishy-washy way to say it, but if I compartmentalize my thoughts better, I can do a show on it, which might actually be better. But that, in a nutshell, would be the big advantages. Any filmmaker, independent filmmaker will tell you not having creative control over your vision and being able to implement that creative control is huge for sure. All right. Let's see here. A couple more minutes. Warren Boys says, should I tell my parents I'm adopted? Please don't read this out loud. Oh, well, I did. Too bad. Oh, no. Gary Rangel says, Dave, with COVID-19 delays, especially with marketing never said this before, but I think Halloween Kills needs one trailer, not two trailers, at least that and a poster, because with the stress, we need two. Gary, I'm not quite sure what you're saying. I think what you're saying is that you would prefer that there only be, with marketing never said this before, but I think Halloween Kills needs one trailer, not two trailers. I see what you're saying. Listen, if October, what's likely to happen is that you will get one trailer and then TV. Well, it depends. Look, it's still June. There's still opportunity. You could release a trailer at the end of July and release another one at the end of September. You could do that, or the middle of September. You could still do that. I get what you're saying. Halloween Kills needs one trailer, not two trailers at least. That and a poster, because with the stress, don't need two. With the stress, you don't need two trailers. The stress. I guess you're talking about yourself in terms of the anticipation and the excitement. Yeah, I mean, they don't factor that in, right? I mean, these are multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns, and they will adjust accordingly. If they think releasing two trailers in 3 months will give them the best probability of success, they will do it. And but the longer we go on, the more likely it is that they will release a trailer and then just probably move into TV spots. But that would be like closer to October. So I don't know, man. I don't really know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but we ain't getting it this month. I can certainly tell you that. Frank Riker goes hard in the paint, sends one last super chat in, says, Dave, which makeup would be a pain to wear? A Mrs. Doubtfire type or something else? I think Mrs. Doubtfire would be a pain. I think there's a lot of makeup that would be a pain to wear. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Freddy Krueger makeup is going to, but I'm really looking forward to having the makeup on because I can get lost in the character. You know what I mean? And I really am looking forward to that. Like I become Freddy Krueger. But a pain, I guess it depends on whether it's, what type of latex it is, whether it's a different type of, makeup, how long the process is, because that could be too, that factors into it as well, right? If it takes you 5 hours to put on and 2 hours to take off, wearing that makeup then becomes a process, you know what I mean? And maybe becomes difficult. But the Mrs. Doubtfire makeup was probably a bit difficult. Yeah, I could see that. For sure. I could definitely see that. All right, folks, listen, that's going to do it for me for episode 69 of Mcrae Live. I want to thank you to everybody, I want to thank everybody who tuned in. Thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate it, by the way. Keeps this channel going. Thank you to the non-super chats. Again, if I didn't answer your question, it is never personal. At one point, we had about 155 people in here, and the chat room was going by like this, and you know me, I'm thorough with my answers, and sometimes I go off on tangents that connect to my answers. And I like to, of course, check and see if I can find people that have never, or that I've never seen before. Thank you to my moderators, Darren Sands. Darren, you're amazing, my man. Thank you so much. Frank Riker, of course, Tabitha Short, and Jason Nike. Thank you for doing what you do and showing up every day, or every day that I do shows, at least, and sort of monitoring the chat. And I mean, I couldn't do this without you. I do notice a significant difference there when some things go awry. So I really appreciate what you do. You guys are amazing. All of you are amazing. I really appreciate it. I will be, and don't forget, tomorrow, by the way, Thorazine, to my level 3 patrons, Thorazine, I'm going to put out an announcement later today, but I think I'm going to want to do it at 10 a.m. instead of 11 a.m. just because I got something going on tomorrow afternoon. I just want that little bit of time. So expect Thorazine to be posted for 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. That, of course, is the Halloween-only AMA exclusive to level number 3 on my Patreon. And then, of course, this Monday, I'm going to tell you now, but I'll make the announcement later. This Monday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, Tony and I are watching. Are you ready for this? The remake of Friday the 13th, 2009. I will make the official announcement either later today or tomorrow. That's what Tony and I will be doing at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. Don't forget, on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, so a little bit before that, of course, it will be episode 70 of Mcrae Live, and I will be interviewing Sandy Johnson and her agent. So make sure you tune into that as well. But I'll be making announcements about all this, so if you follow me on social media, you will, and the community section on Facebook as well, you will see it there. So yeah, that's going to do it for me, folks. So have a great rest of your Friday. Stay safe out there. And in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. All righty. Cheers.